Yeshiva?
No.
Where are they in Assembly?
Oh, here?
This is Mechtav Aleph. Mechtav Aleph. Okay.
Are you going to spend time with you tomorrow? Well, go tonight. Go spend time with you.
Okay, why don't everybody sit down?
Come, sit. Thank you.
Victor. Because some of you don't understand Hebrew. I'll translate. The schut of Rav Chanina ben Trajim, Hatana. Schuto Yagin Aleinu. Amen. Yom Shishi, this was Erev Shabbat Kodesh, Parshat Korach. You know, the first letter that he wrote me was on...
Why don't we take that chair and move it out of the way?
It's okay with me. Anyway, and you know what? Exactly like this year. Exactly like this year. Erev Shabbat Kodesh was Beit B'Chodesh, and this year it's not Beit B'Chodesh, Erev Shabbat Kodesh.
Didn't hear a thing.
The Chodesh Tamid Tafshin Kav Dalet, so that is, how many years ago? 34 years ago, right? 33 or 4 years.
34 years ago?
Yeah. Almost to the day. That's amazing. So we should read it. We should read it this year. I haven't seen this letter since 34 years ago.
34 years ago. Yeah.
Very beautiful.
Huh? Rav Brachot, many blessings, Vesovas Samachot, and fulfillment of joy. The Kol Tuv, Sela, Lord, Chaviv Adam. I don't even remember that. Okay.
Chaviv Adam, is it?
Arav, Moreni Arav, okay. Achad Rishat Shlomo Hato Ba'aba Rabba. Chazati Ayom Meir HaKodesh Yerushalayim. This was before the 6-Day War. This was, when he says he came back from Yerushalayim, it means the western part of Yerushalayim. Yeah, Kodesh Yerushalayim Divdev B'Tichonem B'Mei B'Mei. And he was there a whole week. Binyan HaYeshiva, Eli Mashu B'Miyuchad L'Chtov. About the yeshiva, there isn't much or anything special to write about it. Rak Shalom Din, U'Mitpalim B'Meshach Kol HaShavua. But they learn a whole week. Amati L'Fnehem Shir Kol Yom Be'erech Shatayim.
Excuse me, hold on. Is that fire still hot or anything over there?
Yes.
Kids don't belong there. Parents.
תודה. בואו לפה, בואו.
Anyway, he's talking about the yeshiva, and he gave a shir, Amalti Kasher Aval Kedai. He worked very hard that week in Yerushalayim, but he said it was worth it. Zikr me'od la'ashgiach l'sim lev, and very important, and to have a consciousness, sha'kesef shehem makablim, im shezeh lo l'shma, yishtamesh, v'yavi ala matara, shemitoch shlo l'shma, ba l'shma. What was the whole question?
What is that?
What was that about? We were paying these people that time in Yerushalayim.
Yeah.
We were paying them because that's the way Yerushalayim was built. That you pay people to study. Although he once told me that Rabbi Ashlag, although this is the way the system had been going on for hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, hundreds of years, and that Rabbi Ashlag always wanted that there would be a come a time where the student would pay to study rather than him being paid to study.
What happened to Hillel? Why did you go?
That's why I didn't say thousands of years. That's why I said it.
Hillel rose on the roof.
They wouldn't let him in because he didn't have money to pay. But it changed. It changed. And in Yerushalayim, they started paying the people to study. Well, they were married. They had to provide. If they were going to study all day, how were they going to support their families? So you might say that was the justification. Okay. Anyway, but once you pay them already, are they learning? The question was, is it lishma? Are they learning now
Because they want to learn.
for the reasons of what the purpose of study of Torah is about? Study of Torah is unlike studying at Harvard. Why is anybody going to Harvard? How many people in Harvard are going there because they want to acquire knowledge? Everyone who goes to college to acquire knowledge because ultimately it will give him an opportunity to be able to earn a living. We're not saying that there's anything wrong with that. When you learn Torah, although it's still not the reason they learn Torah because they still pay people to learn Torah, but the question because a person could learn 2 hours at night or in his free time. Instead of watching television, he could study then and not be paid for it and let him work all day. But in any event, that's not the way it's set up in Jerusalem. And so I had raised the question, I remember, I had raised the question to them, why are we paying them? I mean, this is such a zechut to be able to sit and learn Torah. I mean, not only is it a benefit for the individual, but, I mean, look how he's benefiting the whole world. So he's dealing with that question right now. But, he says, there is in the Talmud it says, that that even though the person begins to study without the proper reasoning, right now the reason he's studying is because he needs the money. And so the reason is not he's studying because he wants to study, but the reason he's studying is because he needs the money. And so this is an alternative. What happens if he could get another job, pay him more, maybe at that time? So that's called shalol lishma. It's not for the objective. He's not studying Torah for the objective. He's studying Torah so he can make money. And it's not wrong. We're not saying it's wrong, but that's called shalol lishma. But that is not the consciousness required to influence the whole of the universe. That's why students of Rabbi Akiva, 24,000. You imagine the Torah they studied, but did they make an impact? On the contrary. Not only didn't they make an impact, but they created so much negative energy because of their behavior one towards each other that they caused a destruction. ומתי זה מתכוון? כשהלומד רואה ומרגיש את אור החיים הקדוש. So how will someone know that he's learning it for the objective? And he would study anyway. But if he could also get money at the same time, then he doesn't have to take another job. Then he can continue to study. He says, when will a person know that he's reached that point of lishma, meaning for the sake of the purpose of learning? when he begins to experience the light of the hidden light of Etz HaChayim. V'toratenu HaKdosha. V'pinet ki motzei mayim chayim. When you find motzei matzah chayim, when you find life, then you know that what you're doing, then what you're actually involved with is lishma, because you are supposed to be the first beneficiary. As Torato Naseh lo l'samachayim, then it is an elixir, or it's a fragrance of life. And then automatically, someone who's involved with Torah, now he can't be supported anymore. Will you say, well, I've got to leave it? Well, I got to leave it because I got to support my family. That doesn't enter into his mind anymore. I'll leave it because I have to earn money. No, he'll say, how can I leave life if it's life? And he's experienced that as life, that without it he couldn't live. Then he'll try. He won't say, well, what can I do? I have to leave it and go make a living. He'll then say, well, the living has to come, but I can't. It's like someone say, look, I'm too busy. I'm breathing air, but if it means I have to stop breathing air, so I can support my family. Well, stupid. You won't be able to support your family anyway because there's no life. And since we are in the midst of the middle of this week of Parshat Korach, Amalti lefaresh ksat etanyin. What?
It's
Korach
exactly
is this
the
week,
of Tammuz.
and it's the same day. I said that before. You didn't catch
No,
it.
we couldn't hear.
Oh, he wrote the letter Erev Shabbat, Friday, which he says was Beit L'Chodesh Tammuz. This Friday is going to be Beit L'Chodesh Tammuz.
Okay.
Not every week, every year it comes out like this. It says, Vayikach Korach. Korach took. Perish Rashi, Zal, and Rashi explains, what does it mean? Lakach et atzmo l'tzad echad. What does it mean he took? What did he take? He didn't say he took anything. He didn't take a cup, a bottle, or something. It doesn't say that. So he took himself. He took himself aside. That's what Rashi says. He took himself aside. He separated himself. That's why in Israel, only in Israel, do you say miflagot, political parties. But miflagot is a terrible word for it. It means separation. I'm not him. The Democrats don't call themselves Democrats because I'm not a Republican. We believe in these ideals. We believe in these. But they're the wait, and that's what the Targum says. Targum Onkelos says, what did Korach do? It paleg. His whole, he took himself aside now on the objective of division. Now he's giving an explanation. What does it mean he took himself aside to that position? We'll understand this after we explain the two questions that Korach asked Moshe. He asked him two questions. Talit shekulat chelet, chayev b'tzitzit or petulah. Chelet, chelet is that blue wool that's made from a certain fish. We don't know that certain fish anymore, so we don't put included in the fringes. We don't put that. It's kind of a coloring on the fringes. We don't use that because we don't know. Although there are some in Yerushalayim that claim they do know.
Did they wear tzitzis in the mikvah?
What? Sure. Says that they do.
Where did they get the fish from?
What?
Then they had the fish. Today we don't have the fish.
Where
did they get it from?
They have the color from the
What's the
Where
problem?
did they get the fish from? In the mikvah?
From the bear Miriam that was going with
in
them.
the bear. They went fish to fish.
They went to fish out of the bear.
Now I
It was a well. It was a well. You understand how the well was traveling with them?
I thought he just dropped the fish and that was it.
Where did the fish come from?
From Hashem, the same place that the manna came from.
No, it could come. It didn't have to go through the. That
You know what else they could have done? They could have made it white and just dipped it, and when it came out, it was blue.
Dipped it into what?
Into whatever they dipped it.
No, only that fish. Only that fish.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, she says, what happens if the talit is completely with chelet? Completely. Right? Not like we had white and a little black in it. Let's say the whole thing was colored with this chelet.
Oh, that was the question.
Yeah,
What?
That's the question in Rashi with Korach.
That's right.
1:09 a.m.
Then do you need tzitzit? You only need tzitzit when the garment is white, so on, and then you have to add on the fringes. You have to add a little blue, the color of blue. That was the color. But then, bayit shekulos farim tzarich mezuzah alone. So you have to put. What happens if a room is fully loaded up? Where it's a room, and you can't even get into the room, but it has only books, like in a warehouse, which is fully occupied by books. Does it then need a mezuzah? What was his two questions? So, Rav Brandwein, Marki ben Korach b'beit Sheloh, u'man ganuz b'Sheloh, and what is concealed in his question? There seem to be two simple questions. But they're not too simple questions. Because he wants to go back and answer the always remember the original question. The original question is, what does it mean that Korach took himself aside, he separated himself from the rest of the community? What does that mean? All right, so the understanding of these two questions will provide the answer to the original question. So just so we don't lose that. Ha'inyin, ki kol avodat Hashem, kol haTorah klula, v'she'elot elu. The entire matter of spiritual work and the Torah itself is already included, and this gives us an understanding of what this means, spiritual work, in these questions. Ki ba'avodat Hashem yishbarach, because in the spiritual path of work, the light, there are two paths. Echad, derech hamunah, a total belief. Kishor la'ol chamor l'masah. You ever seen a donkey? Here they don't have donkeys, but if you saw in Israel, you load a donkey up, you keep loading him and loading him and loading. Doesn't say anything. What will happen if you can't hold it anymore? It'll just fall down. That's it. That's it. No questions. Too much for me. You know what I mean? He stands there until he can't handle it anymore. Right? Or an ox. When you put the yoke on him, now you want the old way to what?
Plow a field.
To plow a field. You didn't ask no question. You put the yoke on him. There'll be big rocks, small rocks to get rid of. I mean, just push the head. That's all. So that's one path where you accept the fact that the light exists without questions, without any uncertainty. Como she'amru al hapasuk, Adam v'hema toshia Hashem, puts man and animal together. God should help Adam, man, and animal together. Ilu b'nei Adam shehem arumim v'dat masim asman kib'ehema If a person is naked, when bidat,
From knowledge.
he's naked in knowledge, and just he puts himself like an animal. You know, I mean, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Does an animal ask himself, what am I doing here? The horse, he asks himself, I mean, why do I have to be here? Why do I have to ride you? I mean, the horse doesn't ask. You sit on the horse, you sit on the donkey. An animal doesn't go there. So, but there are some people who go through life just like that. Don't ask no questions. I'm here. When he'll die, he died. And that's the end of the scene. Beginning to end. Lola dat, not to know, lola seek, not to have a grasp of anything. Lola not to see anything. Kibehema mamash, pshuto kimashmao. As simple as it sounds, like an animal, no purpose, no nothing. I'm here. That's it. What's tomorrow? What's yesterday? Why did I ever arrive on the scene? No question. This is the talit that is completely blue. K'moshe katuv, l'kol tichla le'iti ketz. Haynu, שהמחלים את השגה ואת הידיעה לגמרי. That he destroys any hasaga, any grasping of thoughts, knowledge. ומקבלים עליו ומתאספים כלבוש שהוא טלית של אמונה, לא לדעת כבהמה. He's comparing now the talit, that when he asked the question, what would happen if the whole talit was blue? Would you have to have tzitzit? So meanwhile, he's comparing it to a person who acts like an animal. No questions. There's nothing here. Nothing. We don't see yet the connection.
Right.
But tzitzit, where does the word tzitzit come from? Tzitzit. What? Latzit. No. No, המילה.
המקור.
המקור של המילה.
ציץ, כמו של הכהן, ציץ זה הקודש.
No, that's also, no. Huh?
להציץ?
At the pierce.
Yeah.
The pierce.
Yeah.
The pierce. Right?
Why?
Go through.
You're saying להציץ.
What? What?
הציצית צריכה לצאת החוצה בשביל זה נקרא להציץ? why it's called להציץ?
No. It means you pierce. You pierce through. Where does it come from? Meisitz min hacharakim.
להציץ. This is להציץ.
Yeah, okay.
כמו מין...
Right? To pierce through. You go, okay.
מוטי, זה וידאו מוטי?
Riyah, bistaklut, right? See, to consider. Sechel, the word istaklut means you're using your brain trying to comprehend. Not only see, but trying to go deeper into, like we say, look between the lines or something like that. Go deeper. Hainu shemi'irim od belev makom she'im tiyeh eisi gilui ratzon mitzad Hashem yitbarach. In other words, if God said do this, do that, you look further. I mean, what's the purpose? What does God have in mind? Not just God says like that, but to start looking a little deeper into the mashma'ot of things. An animal doesn't do that. Lahasig u'ladat u'lahavin, מבחינת דע את השם, Elokei Avicha, which it says. That's what we say here in Kabbalah. Not just accept, and like an animal, you accept the Om Malchut Shemayim. That's what they say you're supposed to. That's the highest level, which is not. They say when you're accepting the yoke of God, you've reached the highest level. And he said, no, that's very close to an animal. Very close to an animal. Because he said, even the tzitzit, you should see the tzitzit. So what do they do? Look at the tzitzit. Now I fulfilled the mitzvah. Right? What? Yeah. That's why they wear the tzitzits outside. Why they wear the tzitzits outside? Because you're supposed to see him. Why are you supposed to see him?
Nobody knows.
Why? It doesn't say anything more than...
Because you're
so
supposed
he's saying,
to remember Shemayim.
You only remember that God told you to do that. That's all. Just remember God told you. But why did God tell you? And why did he call it tzitzit? Because he wants you to look at that and now start thinking. That's why you're supposed to look at it.
That's
because
right.
the word is tzitzit. From meisitz, minacharakim. In other words, to delve deeper. There's a reason why we're telling you to do that. Why this? Doesn't say anything else about you should see it. On tzitzit, it says, Uritem otam. You should see them. Because it says, Da'et Hashem Elokei Avicha. Like we say here, what was the first mitzvah that God gave the Jews in the first mitzvah? We saw what he gave Avram, but the first mitzvah that the Jews received, and remember the classes we had? Maybe some of us have to go back to Kabbalah number 1 again. No, before that. Yedat et Hashem.
Ani Hashem.
Yedat et Hashem, you must know God. That was even before Kiddush HaKodesh. Zohar, that's what the Zohar said. That's why when we put on the tefillin, we always say, because only then can your eyes observe God. Moshe Katuv Eitzel Moshe Rabbeinu. Tmunat Hashem Yabid. Look at the picture. Look at the picture. Not just, that's it. No. Look at the picture. Look into it. Zot Aita Shuvat Moshe Rabbeinu Alav Hashalom. Nachon shemitzideinu anu mekablim aleinu et amunah pshuta. Kishor la'ol v'mor l'masa. Moshe told Korach, it's true. It's true. We ought to accept this yoke. But the only reason we ought to accept the yoke because in that process of doing it, we will then be following the tzitz idea that we are supposed to pursue it now. Oh, so I'm wearing it. Because that will help me in understanding it. But again, no time are we to consider that to be the end all. So now I'm wearing the tzitzit, now I'm a tzaddik because I changed my clothes. I used to wear tank, what do you call those shirts?
Tank top.
A tank top, and now I wear a long coat, right? How long did it take? A second. Now he's a better Jew. In 1 second, look how you can become a better Jew. Right? So obviously, that's not it. When you wear this, now you're supposed to reflect. Why am I wearing it? Why am I wearing it? So even though this is what we say here, you accept a lot of the principles in Kabbalah. Now that you have accepted, why do you accept it? Why do you accept it even though sometimes we don't understand it? It's not because we're told not to, you don't have to understand it. We're told that meanwhile, you may need other things before of cleansing or a sport. No, the tzitzit support us. I wear the tzitzit even though I don't know why, maybe. But then I say, God said I should wear it. I know he means my benefit. But in the final analysis, it's not enough to say God told me, and therefore that's enough. That was not the intent when he said to make tzitzit. Because he said, you should look at them. Why do you have to look at them? Oh, that's another thing that God told me to do. No, that's the mistake. This little thing about tzitzit, and this is what he's leading up to about Korach. This little thing. No, you're supposed to look one step further. So that's it. Yes, do the mitzvah. But that doesn't mean you stop and say, now I'm like a behemah, I'm like a stupid animal, and I don't have to think. But since God also said, Beit Ratzon, that we should serve him, we should also serve him to B'nai Adam. That's why it says Adam of Hema, Tashianai. Be a person and be an animal. Well, what does it mean be an animal? How are we supposed to be an animal? You first put on it. You act like an animal. You accept it. I accept it. But King David said, Adam of Hema Toshia Hashem. God will only help those who act not only like an animal, always no questions asked, and that's how he compares it, Rav Brandwein, to an animal. I mean, God said, put on tzitzit, I put on tzitzit, and that's where it ends. He says, then you're only acting like an animal, like the ox who accepts the yoke, and like the donkey who keeps accepting the load onto his back, no questions asked. He says that's only behemah. But it says, Adam of Hema Toshani. God also wants you to act as a human being. To begin to understand and to achieve levels of consciousness. Anu lo nema shalo, ela achrei kol hakabala l'shem atzmo kebehema. Ashia Makom Beremes Gam and he says it clear. Is the whole purpose just that we should recognize the desire of God, right? God wants me to do this. God wants me to do that. So all the intent here of the whole Torah is to recognize God's desire. And what is God's desire? I should be like an animal. Accept what I say. Accept what I say. He says, then we will be Zen Nikra Talit Shikolo Shekula Shel Tchelet Chayavet B'tzitzit. When the whole, he asked, what was this question? If the whole garment was, do we have to put on tzitzit or not? The answer is, what are you asking? Are you asking that we should be like animals? That was Moshe's answer to him. Be just like an animal? That what? Why would it have to be with tzitzit now, he was saying? Why doesn't it need tzitzit? Well, because I'm already wearing the tchelet. And so the answer of Moshe was, you lost the whole purpose. You don't know what the purpose of the tzitzit wasn't just to wear tzitzit. Purpose was that we should be able to make us think and reflect as to why God wants us to do these things. Not just for the sake of doing it, because that's the desire of God. Besod said, and with this secret revealed, Gam kein sukkah shenikrat tzela de mehemnuta. What is a sukkah called? Shadow of belief.
Sukkah.
Hainu sheromezet lemunah. What does emunah mean? I believe. Emunah means I believe. Right? Vim kol zeh sukkah. Muva sula. What happens?
No, not the sukkah itself.
What?
Oh, okay. Okay.
What happens if you make spaces in the sukkah?
Matzitz.
Then it would be good, because it's like the whole beged, you don't need tzitzits after. The whole beged has to chelet, right? Well, here if it says sukkah, well, what do you mean you're going to leave spaces? But what about the idea that you must leave spaces? So you can see the heavens. Why? Because just saying that I have to sit in a sukkah and you're not going to be able to reflect and see things, it's pasul. Why is it pasul? Why, if there's no holes that I can see? So they say the halacha is you have to see the heavens. So you got to leave space in between to be able to see the heavens. Also, that's the reason, to see the heavens. That's not the reason just to see the heavens. What? To ponder the heavens. Right. To reflect on the heavens. Mistakel, masim. And to try to grasp what is the purpose behind all of this. Because why do you have to see the stars? Why? That's what you have to ask. That's the halacha, right? Not just to sit in the sukkah. You have to see
the stars.
The stars. Why do you have to see the stars? Says Rav Brandwein. And this he gets from the Ari. Because Or HaKochavim, the light, that sparkling of the stars, Romez, why are they sparkling? Why are they sparkling? Al Orot Hashem Yidbar Chameirim Lanu L'toch HaSukkah She'emunah. Because we are reflecting and connecting to that light, and that sparkle is the sparkle that God wants to share with us in the sukkah.
It's like the pil chelem.
Just like that. For us to reflect. Why? Because it just reminded me. I didn't think of it before. Because if you're sitting in the sukkah and you don't reflect on the light of God, then that's why are you sitting in the sukkah? I'm like a donkey. I do everything I'm told by God. Right? Right. I got the talit, and I got a little tchelet. Now if I have all tchelet on that, what more would I need? Excluding the mind of man.
Why does the tchelet make it the light of God? Because it's blue like the sky.
That's right. Wow. That's right. Wow. So he says, so he reminded me about about what science says, that if a tree falls in the forest, and nobody hears it, the tree didn't fall. What do you mean? I see the tree falling. That's why it fell, because you saw it falling.
But you know what you're saying?
If you don't see the tree falling, science says, and even though we don't understand it.
You know what you're saying?
Yeah.
You're saying that if a man dies and does nothing with his life, he never died because he never lived.
He was never born.
That's right.
Never existed.
That's the
He never
tree.
existed.
That's the tree.
That's right.
In the forest.
That's right. That's
what
correct.
you do with your life.
That's right. That's right.
Like nobody knows that you ever
That's
exist.
right.
Unbelievable.
That's right.
Unbelievable.
You understand?
That's very good.
It's the same
very right.
thing.
Just like the tree never fell. He never existed. The falling never happened.
Never happened.
Even if it was a tree and it gave leaves and fruit,
That's
but
right.
nobody knows it was
That's
existing.
right.
That's right.
Very nice. The Chen Sha'al, and this is the same question that Korach asked when he said, what happens with a Bayit Shemalei Sfarim, a house filled with books, holy books? Kloma, Mi Shezachar Lechachma, V'yesh Lo Yediyah B'Hakara Meleya, B'Tziyoto Yitbarach, Meroeh U'Mevin B'Torah, Akol, Sarich L'Mezuzah Haromezes L'Mezuzah. So he said, if it's full of books, what does it mean it's full of books? It has all the information in there, right? So do you need a mezuzah? Why would you need a
Well, there's
mezuzah?
no question, but that you have the Zohar, you need a mezuzah.
That's right.
No.
Why do you need a mezuzah now, right? Ki amunah hi hashomeret aleinu tamid mikol hamazakim. Because the amunah to put a mezuzah, he missed the point. He didn't know the reason. Why is the mezuzah there? Why do we put a mezuzah on the door?
To leave the Melech HaMavet outside.
There's a purpose. It's not just the mitzvah is to have a mezuzah on the door. That was not the reason. The reason is that it shomeret aleinu tamid min kol hamazikim. בחיצונים הרוצים להזיק לנו בסוד מזוזות אותיות זז מוות, right? שהמוות אין לו שום כניסה בבית שקבוע בו מזוזה. Therefore, משה רבנו אמר לו, כן, שגם בית מלא ספרים, ויש לו כל הכרה המלאה, has got all the knowledge of God. עם כל זה, Ein Adam Nimtza Tamid B'Matzav Echad. But does a person ever stay in the same place just because his house is full of books? V'im Chas v'Shalom Tavo Eze Min Hasete Panim Az Gamkein Lo Nasigit La'achor. But we can always go backwards because how could we be sure that around us there's not something Chas v'Shalom that could still hurt us? So the house is full with books. But what's the purpose of the mezuzah? Make sure that no matter where I am, that mazik that can enter shouldn't get me. Why wouldn't he enter? Just because there's a house full of books? Because that wasn't the purpose of the mezuzah. Ba'af Pam Asur Lahamin Ba'atzmo. Well, if I have a house full of books, what do I have to worry about now? And the reason for the mezuzah is to know what? Not only that God says it protects you, but also now to come to a realization that you're never safe. Why do you need the mezuzah? Why do you need the mezuzah? Well, it saves you. Well, what do you mean? It'll save me from danger. What danger? Yeah, because ourselves, without the light of God, we then should come to what?
We'll never have control.
We're never what?
We're never in control.
That's right. That's right. That was the reason. Just like the tzitzis was to teach us something, to look further, so the mezuzah is to teach us we're not in control. Afilu bayit shebalei sfarim tzarich mezuzah ve'emunah l'shbira l'kol minei matzavim. To any purpose, the mezuzah is not there because it's a mitzvah, and so I've done the mitzvah. But now, if I have all the books that tell me all about God, what do I need the mezuzah for? What does it have to do with the house being full of books? What does it have to do with the mazikim? Well, I can take care of. You can't take care of anything. Any moment, if we're not on God, we can be cut short. These two paths, mezuzah and tzitzit, Elohim Nikraim Eshumayim, that is also referred to
Fire and water.
as fire and water. ולכן כתוב שהתורה נמשלה לאש, עלי קוד דברי כאש. He brings a verse. וכן נמשלה למים. Torah is also compared to מים. כל צמא לכו למים. ומים ואש הם שני הופכים, ממש, שאחד מכלה את השני. Water and fire are two opposite elements. In fact, one always wants to destroy the other. Water wants to put out the fire, and fire wants to swallow up, like it does, heat. Water wants to put out the fire, and fire dries up water. When a person who has water and it's cold and he's very thirsty, and because it's so cold he can't drink it. It's too cold. Now he's got the water, he is thirsty for the water. And he needs also the ash to warm it up a little. Usam amayim b'toch. What does he do? He puts the water into a little vessel. Meishim akli im amayim ala esh. V'kacha nichnas koach ha'esh v'amayim u'shateh mayim chamim. I mean, you want tea, right? Now, you can say that water is an opposite element of fire. How could you ever bring them together? They'll destroy each other. So what do? In case you want tea, what do? If you put the water into the fire, what would happen? Dries up. And also maybe the fire goes out. Both of them could be destroyed at the same time. No water and no fire. So what do? You put the water into a little kettle, right?
And it boils.
And now he can drink the water, warm water. And now this vessel created that both these two opposite elements can now be brought together. I see why he's leaning up. It's so beautiful. Nimsa shakli asa shalom beina eish v'amayim. So that little kettle brought peace between the two, between the fire and the water. V'amayim ben eish v'amayim v'menem shneim biyachad. And now he can enjoy both. Shezeh sod she'amru zal haroi kedera b'chalom yitzaper l'shalom. Someone sees a kedera,
Pot.
what?
Pot.
A pot. Okay. Yeah. In his dreams, that he knows he can look forward to peace.
A pot.
Kain hu beruchriyut, yes. Kain hu beruchriyut. And so it is in the metaphysical or the spiritual realm.
At least people tonight will dream of pots.
ובשתי הדרכים הנזכרים שהם סותרים זה זה, these two paths both seem to contradict each other, ונמשלו לאש ומים ונקראים שני צדדים ימין ושמאל שהם אמונה וידיעה שידיעה סותרת אמונה. It seems like the aspect of the tzitzit contradicts. Here we're told, wear the garment. Well, what does that mean? Don't ask questions. then it says wear a garment of tzitzit. And what does tzitzit mean?
Knowledge.
Seek out the. I mean, either you're like a donkey, you accept the word of God, or you say no. I want to know why. So doesn't that seem to contradict each other? He's comparing. He wants to bring it out now to the fire and the water. Sure, they contradict each other, but there is a medium there somewhere that, just like the vessel, the kettle, brought together and made peace. That's why when it says when you see a pot, because the pot is the vehicle in the world of physical reality, that the kettle can bring together peace and make peace between two opposites that want to destroy each other. Right? Now, what about in the upper realm? It seems you have now two contradictions. You have the old Malchut Shemayim, like the donkey, except Emunah it's called, except without question. And then we have the tzitzit, which says no, pierce the curtain. No, why? So here we have Yamin and Shmolta, we have two styles. Sheyidiyah soteret emunah, because once it says that you should go seek, then it's the contrary, it's the contradiction to emunah, right? The total belief. V'chein lehefer. V'aolech b'derech haTorah, Torat Moshe Rabbeinu, hu nasa kikli hazeh ha'oseh shalom. But when you go in the path of Torat Moshe, on the path of Torat Moshe, then you can find that vessel in the world of spirituality that makes peace. Uma'ached et katzavot v'atzdadim b'sod. Lo masa kadosh baruch hu kli marzik bracha Yisrael ela shalom. Now you want to know what is going to join right and left, like emunah and yediyah. It's a contradiction, right? Emunah means total acceptance, total belief. I mean, you don't ask questions, you accept like the donkey. Or yediyah says, no God. But that's a contradiction. So what can bring these two factors together? Said Moshe Rabbeinu, Onu Shalom. Now already, even without reading on, you remember what we said? What did the Targum, how did they say? How did Rashi and what did he want? He wanted to create separation. So the reason he was asking these two questions, because these two had to do with a contradiction. The garment, put on tzitzit, and so yes, it's all already blue. What do I need the tzitzit? That's right. What do you need the tzitzit? Because the tzitzit is a contradiction. He saw it only as a contradiction. What did he do? And since he was only interested, said Rashi, in separation, so these two opposite thoughts, emunah and yediyah, Moshe already saw where this man was coming from. From his questions, he knew he was coming not to look how we can reconcile the two opposites, meaning anytime, two people, two parties in Israel. Why doesn't it fit in? Because to bring together two Jews, there's only one way to do it. Just like the kettle provides peace to both parties, right? One does not devour the other. Whereas in political parties or in any argument between people,
What does one want over the other? Each one wants to swallow up the other. I have one opinion. You have an opposite opinion. So what's one approach? One approach is I swallow you up entirely. If I'm so smart, I completely turn you around to my opinion. So what have I done to you? I swallowed you up. The only way that I'll be at peace with you if you completely see my way. And if you have someone who's stubborn enough who says, no, I'm not going to stop until I can completely swallow you up. By swallowing up people is like the water swallowing up the fire, or the fire swallowing up the... It's so beautiful. So what's in the world of physicality, it's the kettle that can bring together two opposites. But in this realm of ideology, thinking, and so on, how do you bring together opposites? Only peace. Only when you go with the thought, like the kettle. Kettle goes with the thought of saying, I've got to make sure the water stays, I've got to be sure the fire stays, because if I don't have both, I won't have my tea, and I won't have warm water. So stupid, what are you looking to destroy each other? Then nobody will have anything. That's what we talk about restriction. Restriction is that idea. Someone slapped me in the face, the first thing I got to do is put a gun to his head and shoot him. No? No, isn't that the reasonable answer? Right? Or someone took away, like in Israel, someone took away his parking space. What was the natural thing to do? Get rid of him and I'll have my parking space. That's what he did. Took out a knife and killed him. Now he's got his parking space. It's the only way you settle problems. Who sod Moshe? Because he said it so beautiful. Who sod Moshe midat ateferet. Teferet is the central column sphere. So beautiful. The sod klil teferet natatalo. Klil teferet natatalo. And then the beit tzavot. Now you can enjoy both ends of the stick. Hen amunah. והן מידיעה, או בא לידי הכרה כזו, כמו שאינה מסופק על עצמו, אם הוא נמצא או אם הוא חי, הגם שאין רואה את האור החיים שלו בעיניו, הגשמים, even though sometimes we don't, okay, I accept it. You know, how many times have we heard this in the center? So I've done all the things I had to do, and I'm still not making a living. Something wrong. No? Something wrong. I did everything I had to do. That's the other part. That if you have to accept, when I say you have to accept, I mean you have to come to a realization of acceptance. Because without the realization of acceptance, not everything are you going to understand. Everything in Kabbalah is not always going to be understood. And so we say, I'm still going to do it. If Kabbalah says I should do it this way, I'm good. Why am I going to do it? Because in most of the cases, I see it works. But this one case, I didn't see it work. And therefore, what's your expression? Throw the baby out with the bath water. Right? That's the expression. Throw the baby out with the bath water. You don't want the bath water. It's dirty already, right? So how do you throw out the bath water? You take the baby and the... I mean, why are you doing that, stupid? I mean, throw out one and keep the other. No.
Keep the water.
Keep the water.
Keep the water.
All right. כאן זוכה להכרה מלאה in Tziuto Yitbarach. This is the only way. This is the only way that you can come to recognition, a complete recognition of what God's about. When it says "Da'et Hashem Elokei Avicha ve'avdeu," and serve Him, B'yidiyah berura.
Is that where you're running back and forth?
B'yidiyah berura umleya, ma she'en kein Korach, lo ratza el tzad echad. He only wanted one side. He only wanted one side. He wanted only one side. Either the water takes over the fire, or the fire takes over the water. And what was he left with? Nothing. You did. And therefore he was nichshal. He was trapped, and therefore he suffered death. He says, think about these. It took us so long to study this and to read the letter. And he said, because he didn't have that much time to broaden it. So I did it for him now. No, diali in sakta shayoni v'ayeshiva. What? Yoshiv Roshak.
What's that?
No, we got it. Remember, when we in '65, I told him we were applying for a non-profit.
Here in New York? Okay, did we get it?
You want to know if we got it already?
Have a blanket. All right. Honey, please, let's go. Mom, it was very nice.
בלי עין הרע.
What happened?
משה, צריך לשלוח את זה לסניפים. כן.
He said he had to leave.